Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, a business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name is Jerry. I'm your host. I'm a former chiropractor. I help chiropractors now with websites and local SEO. I help new chiropractors get started. I help stuck chiropractors get unstuck, and I host this little podcast. Today we are going to talk a little bit about vanity stats, and we're going to talk about why not all the stats that we think matter really matter. And some of them are actually, if you're focusing on them too much, very well could be a point of frustration for you as a chiropractor. So we're going to just break this down a little bit. Hopefully this will just be really straightforward and just serve as a maybe a reminder, a little bit of like a words of wisdom from a kind of like your, I feel like this is like dad wisdom that you would get about focusing on the right thing as a chiropractor and not making your life more frustrating than what it has to be. So we're going to talk about that today. Before I get into that, I do want to say if you want a better website, then reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. I'd love to help you. If you want some help with your local SEO, one of the things I'm actually going to change, or at least I think I'm going to change, I haven't changed it on my website yet, is I think I'm going to just close my local SEO service for my website clients. I haven't finalized that thought yet, and maybe it's not something I should even have said on the podcast, but my websites are my primary service, and I feel really strongly about the results and the benefit that we can offer to chiropractors through those websites. And when I'm doing local SEO for clients of mine, I feel like I get a better result than when I'm doing local SEO for websites that I don't have any control over. So I think one of the things I might be doing going forward is just not accepting local SEO clients that are not currently my website clients. So maybe I shouldn't even talk about that because that's not the point of this podcast. But if you would like help, let me know. If you'd like me to look at your website and SEO and give you some advice, whether you're a client of mine or not, or whether you want to be a client of mine or not, you can request a website and SEO review at rocketchiro.com. If you are a chiropractor that's getting started or feeling stuck and you want to go beyond the podcast, check out my Next Step program. It's a great place to get some help, even if it's just for a couple months. It's just a great place to get some help. Okay, so here's the thing that I want to talk about today. I want to talk about these vanity stats. This is rampant in chiropractic, and what I would consider a vanity stat would be gross income, new patients per month, sort of out of context. So gross income, new patients per month, patient visits per week, even something like website traffic or website rank. All of this information out of context really doesn't mean anything. And you think it does, maybe on the surface it does. You meet a chiropractor and they say, oh, I have $1 million practice. It's like, well, that doesn't mean anything out of context. It just doesn't. I get approached all the time by people who want to be on the podcast, and I don't have a lot of guests on my podcast. But one thing that guarantees that you're not going to be asked to be on my podcast when you reach out to me is when you reach out to me and your pitch has something to do with being $1 million or multi-million-dollar practice, a 7-figure chiropractor. If I see anything like that, I immediately delete it. I don't respond, don't care. I'm not interested at all. And the reason I'm not interested in is, number one, that is not something that the average chiropractor is really striving for and oftentimes not even capable of, because to have a practice like that, there's a lot of things you have to be willing to be functioning on a completely different level than the average chiropractor. And number two is that I don't like talking about gross income. And you guys, if I've done over 500 episodes on Rocket Chiro, you've never once heard me talk about my income. Never once. And I just don't talk about it. And not only is it, first of all, it's not worth bragging about. I'm not a rich man. Never have been a rich man. So to brag about my income would be silly, and I would be lying if I tried to make it present like I'm some sort of ridiculously wealthy human being. But this has become really popular. It's people online are fake. People on social media are fake. People buy cars they can't afford. People take videos of themselves doing things that they can't afford. They're putting vacations and cars and houses and all this stuff on credit. They buy practices that they can't afford. They buy equipment that they can't afford. They talk about the gross income in their practice that they don't tell you that, like, yeah, I made $1 million, but I spent $850,000 in overhead. Well, you didn't make $1 million. You made $150,000, and that's not all that impressive. And so that's what I mean by getting sucked into these vanity stats. And sometimes when you're around chiropractors, and I don't know how it is, it's been a long time since I've been to a chiropractic seminar, but it felt like it was worse at seminars back in the day where chiropractors would often ask like, hey, how many patients you see per week? I met a chiropractor one time that saw, I don't even remember the number. I want to say it was over 1,000 patient visits a week. And I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. I might be remembering that wrong, but it was a ridiculously high number. And I had been around chiropractors at that time. I was sort of around some of the guys that were doing like the kind of went the maximized living path. And in that group of chiropractors, if you're not seeing at least 300 a week, like you're not even a real chiropractor. Like you're not, what are you doing? Like you're just a bum. And so to be in that group and then also still be like, people go, wow, I'm impressed by your numbers. You're talking about north of 1,000 patient visits per week. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. And part of me was like, it's amazing because that's a lot of people and you have to be efficient, or I don't even know how that's possible. But number two is that you're kind of going, well, let's do the math, right? That's a lot of money. But then you find out like, oh, the person's charging some ridiculously low amount of money per visit. Now, they might tell you they're a suffering servant for chiropractic and they're not doing it for the money and kind of whatever. But I got to tell you, I'm not interested in that. And that's not because I don't want to help people, but I don't want to help people for $5 a visit, 1,000 patient visits a week. Like I just don't. I'm not going to do that. There's too much wear and tear on my body. It's too much wear and tear on my family. It's too much wear and tear on my life. It's not worth it. You may feel differently about that. I don't. There's just no way. Even with the stuff that I do with websites and SEO and things of that nature, like I consider myself on the low end of what I would charge or what would be appropriate for me to charge for what I do. I don't charge a lot. But there are still people that complain about what I charge, and they'll want me to give them a discount or do it for less, or they think it's expensive because they could do it themselves for cheaper, which is always like a funny thing for people to say. It's like, fine, do it yourself. But I'm not going to take on a bunch of website clients that are paying me $25 a month. Like I'm just not. It's too much work. It's too much effort. It's too much value that I'm offering. Like I'm just not going to do it. So if I were to tell you guys like, oh, I have 5,000 chiropractic websites. I'm the largest chiropractic website provider for chiropractors. Like if I told you that, but then you found out that I was making $10 per website, kind of sucks. Like I realize that still adds up, but that sucks. And that's what I mean by gross income out of context. And I've told this story before. I've never said who the chiropractor is because it doesn't matter. And he's a really great guy. But I had a friend of mine who got out of school after I did, and he really skyrocketed. Like he had multiple docs working for him. He had this really big practice, his fancy equipment. He had a nice car. He just seemed to like jump ahead of me. And there was a part of me that I love the guy. I think he's a great guy, but there was also a part of me that was sort of jealous because I'm like, I don't wish ill on him, but I want to do better. Like I want to be doing as well as him because I mean, honestly, it's like, I want a nicer car, I would like a bigger building. Like those things are cool. And so the part of me that liked those vanity things was really taken and a little bit jealous by what he was doing. And I remember sitting down with him one time, and there was two things that I learned from that conversation that have stuck with me for, it's been, 20 some years at this point since I had this conversation with him. There's two things that stuck with me. Is number one is he talked to me about his overhead, and it turns out that he was only making a couple $1,000s a month more than I was. And I was grossing about a third what he was. So although his gross income was 3 times what mine was, his net income was marginally more than mine. And I can tell you, not worth the headache. Like the monstrosity of the business that he was running compared to the simplicity of the business that I was running, there's just no way. Like I would never trade him for that extra little bit of money that he was making. So that turned out to be it was like this false cool thing that was like, I thought was awesome. The other thing was we started talking about our personal lives, and he was telling me that, him and his wife didn't have any kids and they really wanted to have kids and they were having trouble having kids. And at that point I had 2 beautiful, healthy children. Now I have 4. And I remember thinking, there was like this priority thought of like, man, I'm so envious of this person because of how much money they make, how nice his car is, and how big his practice is, how everything looks from the outside. But then once you crawl into the inner circle of his life, like he would have given up all of that to have 2 healthy children and be in my situation And I wouldn't give up anything that I had to be in his situation, because I would not have given up my kids, and I would not have given up the little bit of success that I had. I was like, I was okay. I just wasn't, killing it like I thought he was. And so it really was a interesting perspective change that stuck with me for a lot of years about what's really important. And also, not everything that seems to be the way it is the way it is. And it's so much worse now than what it was back then because of social media. People have this sick obsession with presenting themselves in a way that's not actually true. And the crazy thing is, like, you're aware of yourself. Like, you're aware that maybe you're not an idiot. I'm an idiot. Like, I make mistakes all the time. Like, I love helping my clients, and I love doing some of the stuff that I do. And there's so much about my life that I'm happy about, but I make mistakes all the time. I'm fully aware of my flaws, and it's not great. Like, one Jerry is more than enough. I kind of have joked when people have said about my kids, if you've ever thought about naming a kid after you, I'm like, no, I would never do that. Like, one Jerry Kennedy is way more than enough. Like, I'm too much. And because I'm aware of that, I see the downside of my own life and my own flaws and my own issues. And then I look on social media, and if you start looking on the surface and you think that everything you see is real and true, and you go to seminars and you talk to people, even some of your friends who might mean well, they're going to tell you the best things about what's going on with them. And you're comparing the reality of your life with the highlights of somebody else's life, or the reality of your practice with the highlights of their practice. That's not fair. You can't possibly win that, because you're comparing something that's real that may not be perfect. Like, maybe you could be a better chiropractor. Maybe you could see more people. Maybe you could make more money. Maybe you could be a better husband. Maybe you could be a better father. Maybe you could be a better spouse. Like, I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but you're comparing the real and unfiltered flaws of your own life and existence to the filtered fake perfection that somebody else is projecting onto you. You can't win that. And that's what I mean by vanity metrics. And so we'll run through these really quick. I'm going to give you some tips. I've already talked more than what I wanted to, but that's sort of how this podcast goes if you guys listen to it. So new patients per month. If you don't talk about retention or don't talk about quality, I don't think that matters. New patients do matter. And more is usually better. But if it's poor quality, or they're not ever sticking around, they're coming in for one visit, like, that matters. So if somebody says, like, oh, I see 500, or 500 would be ridiculous. If I see 50 new patients a month, you're like, whoa, that's a lot. And then you find out that they're sticking around for an average of 2 visits. That's not nearly as impressive. So new patient numbers out of context is a vanity metric. Patient visits per week out of context, it's a vanity metrics. Website SEO, website traffic, SEO traffic, ads traffic, all of that out of context is a vanity metric. And what I mean by that is this, is like, you can do things to increase the traffic on your website, and you could do things to increase the traffic from your ads. And you could look at all this stuff on your Google Analytics and all of these things and be like, man, my website's killing it. But for a chiropractor, if it doesn't equal butts in the seat, if it doesn't equal new patients in the door who are a good fit for your practice, it doesn't particularly matter. There are things you can do to your website that have nothing to do with chiropractic that give you a lot of attention and will get a lot of traffic on your site. I've seen some of my clients that are people that have come to me before they were my clients, and I looked at their site and it was like, oh, all your traffic is going to this page that is never going to get you new patients. Like, it just so happens that particular search it's just bringing in traffic because of a piece of content. And actually, I'll give you an example for Rocket Chiro, because this is something I had to tweak on my own website because this was happening to me. I was getting a tremendous amount of traffic on my site for ring dinger searches because I had Dr. Johnson on my podcast a while back, where we were just talking about the whole ring dinger thing and interviewed him and stuff like that. And I enjoyed talking to him. I think he's gotten sidetracked. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about him. Anyway, I enjoyed the conversation that I had with him, but because of the podcast and because of the video that was on YouTube and because of the blog that was on my website, I was getting a lot of ring dinger traffic. And so when I looked at my website stats, I could just look at the vanity stats like, oh my gosh, look at how many people are visiting rocketchiro.com. That's awesome. But then when you look at the specifics of what are the people searching for, what are the people finding, and what are the popular pages, I was like, oh, like half the traffic on my site is ring dinger searches. These are not chiropractors looking for chiropractic websites and SEO. This is just junk traffic. And so that's what I mean when I say ads traffic. Even Google Ads is, if you're not monitoring like what keywords your ads are showing up for, you could be getting a lot of junk traffic from your ads, and you'll look at it and be like, man, my ads are killing it. Like, look how many people are clicking on my ads. And it's like, yeah, they're clicking on it because they don't know what they're clicking on. And then, or it's a completely bogus thing for what it would be like somebody searching for female chiropractor. Your ad pops up and you're a dude and there's no females that work at your practice or no female chiropractors that work at your practice. Someone clicks on that. They realize that you're a dude. They click off of it. That's junk traffic. It's a junk click. And so you don't want that. So that's what I mean when I say like traffic outside of context doesn't really mean a lot. Also, ranking number one. I hear people tell me this all the time when they're curious about my SEO stuff. They'll say, well, I talked to my web people and they said I ranked number 4. Or they say I ranked number 1. That doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't. What is the keyword that you're ranking number 1 for? Like where are you ranking number 1? Like if somebody's searching from the west side of town, are you ranking number 1? Or the east side of town, you're ranking number 1? Are you ranking number 1 if they're standing right outside your practice? Are you ranking number 1 if they're 5 miles away? I'm ranking number 1 outside of context means absolutely nothing. It just doesn't. And so just make sure that you keep that in mind and don't get sucked into these vanity stats and sit there and focus on stuff that isn't going to make a difference in your life. Ranking number 1 right outside of your practice for a keyword that isn't important or doesn't apply to you. Hey, I'm number 1 for female chiropractor, but I'm a dude. Okay. That doesn't help you. And so just keep that in mind. So what are some tips? Don't put stock in what other people say about their stats. Just don't. People are liars, and outside of context, stats don't matter. Number 2, don't brag about your own stats. Just don't. You aren't helping anyone. Even if you think you are, you aren't. You aren't helping anyone. Number 3, if you're going to share your stats, do it within the context of a learning environment. And what I mean by that is this. If someone is sharing their stats with you because they're mentoring you and teaching you, that's different. Where you're getting the full context. You should be getting the full context of that information within the context of teaching. If someone is not sharing the full context of that information, they're not helping you. Also, I'll flip this around to you. Those of you who are bringing in young chiropractors underneath of you and you're helping them, mentoring them, talking to them. If you talk to somebody about your stats, make sure that it is in an environment where you can share the full context of your stats so that information can be helpful for them and you're not misleading them. If you're at a seminar or if you're at some event and you don't have the ability to share it within context and someone asks you about stats, just say, I don't talk about my stats outside of context because they don't mean anything to anybody else. I used to tell people that all the time. They'd ask me in seminars, how many patients you see? What's this? What's that? They'd ask me these vanity stats. And my response was, I don't talk about stats because outside of the 4 walls of my office, they mean nothing to anyone. They just don't. They don't matter to anyone except for me and my staff. That's it. My family. That's the only thing that it matters. It doesn't matter to anybody else. And so talking about them it's all ego. It's just ego. That's all it is. And your ego is not your friend. Last thing we'll talk about is just focus on the stats that matter. So focus on your net income, your gross income minus your expenses. Focus on your expenses. It's easy to waste money. It is super easy to waste money. So focus on tightening up your spending. You don't always need the newest thing. You usually don't need the newest thing. Focus on new patient origin. The reason you want to know where patients are coming from is because it helps you diversify. It helps you maximize. Like you can figure out where are they coming from. Do I spend more money there? Can I optimize it? Can I spend more attention there? If you're spending a bunch of energy in one place, but you're not getting anything from it and you got people coming from somewhere else, you could divert your attention, divert your funds, divert your energy. So knowing where new patients are coming from is important. Focus on new patient quality. Not all patients are the same. We did a podcast recently where we talked about bad chiropractic patients. So they're not all the same. Just make sure that the things you're doing, how you're presenting yourself and what you're doing is getting you good quality patients. And if it's not, start changing what you're doing to improve the quality of your patients, because it matters. Having a practice full of patients that you hate is a miserable place. I know. I've tried to put square pegs in round holes before. And this is true for my clients now too. Like if I get a client that's a bad fit for me, and I don't really do it much anymore. I'm usually pretty good at telling people like, it's not going to work. But when I get a square peg that I try to stick into a round hole, like, it is not good. Lastly, focus on retention, short-term and long-term. So focus on getting a patient to follow through with their initial recommendations, and focus on staying in touch with people to get them back. Those are things that really matter. There's other things that matter from a statistical standpoint, but those are going to be some of the big things that really matter, that are actually really important, much more important than your gross income, just generic patient visits per week, or new patient volume, or website traffic. Like, all this stuff out of context doesn't really matter. It's know your stats. Focus on the ones that actually matter, and you'll just have a good foundation. And for expectations, set yourself off on the right path, because I say this all the time on the podcast, if your expectations are off, you're just setting yourself up for unnecessary frustration. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. If you want help with your website and SEO, reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. If you want to go beyond the podcast, check out my Next Step program. If you want to leave me a review, you can do it in Apple Podcasts or on Google. There's a link to the Google business profile on Rocket Chiro in the footer. I'm done. I'm out of here. I'll talk to you guys on the next episode.